Hi, when you want to build micro-interactions and transitions in SwiftUI, using ChatGPT can be a very helpful and useful tool. Let's look at one use case. In this example, we want to transition the photo from thumbnail state to full screen mode. Let's look at how we can ask ChatGPT to create such transition. In the Compose area, I asked ChatGPT to create a SwiftUI animation that transitions a rounded profile image into full screen and vice versa using a tap gesture and matched geometry effect. So it added an on-tap gesture and the matched geometry effect with animation. So this is the code it gave. Let's copy the code first. I will explain how the code works later. I have already created a SwiftUI project for this. So let's select the struct over here and replace it with the code. We get an error because we need to replace content view with profile to full screen. There is also another error, but let's go through the code first. ChatGPT used if-else statement to create the transition. So in the full screen mode, it makes the image occupy the entire width and height of the screen. In the thumbnail state, it scales the photo to a width of 150 and a height of 150 and clips the image with a circle. We have a second error because it tries to add the matched geometry effect with this state variable, which is wrong. We need to add the namespace property wrapper. It is used to hold related views so that you can transition seamlessly from one of the views to the other. We can define the namespace property wrapper with @namespace. So let's create the namespace morph seamlessly and then put a comment on the matched geometry effect modifier. So ChatGPT used profile as the name of the image, but I don't have this image in the assets library. In the assets library, the image I have is called Joe. So it uses the state variable is full screen to display the image based on a condition. So the initial state of the condition is set to false. So it makes the content in the else statement visible. That is the smaller version of the image. So clicking on the image, we transition from the thumbnail to full screen mode and vice versa. But this is not a smooth or seamless transition. To create a seamless transition, we need to use the namespace I described earlier. So the namespace is used along with the matched geometry effect modifier. Using the matched geometry modifier, we give the two content, that is the full screen image and the thumbnail image, the same ID. So using the same ID, the system is going to recognize them as the same content and create smooth transition between the two content. So ChatGPT added the matched geometry effect to the whole content, that is the full screen image and the thumbnail image, which is wrong. So let's remove it from here and attach it to the images separately. Below the resizable modifier, let's paste that. Even the parameters it used is wrong. It uses the state variable is full screen, which is wrong. When you use the matched geometry effect modifier, there should be an ID and the namespace. So after the ID, let's add in. The argument of the in property is the namespace. We can now copy the matched geometry effect modifier for the second image as well. So below the resizable modifier, let's paste it here. So now we get this smooth transition from the thumbnail state to the full screen mode using spring animation with a tap gesture. We can also edit the code further because here it added this background modifier, which we do not need. So let's remove that. Next, we can customize the spring animation. This uses default spring, but we can use an interpolating spring with parameters. Let's select the interpolating spring that has mass and stiffness. The stiffness is the tensile strength of the spring. So let's put a value of 170. The bounciness of the animation is controlled by the damping parameter. So let's set it to, for example, 20 and see the transition again. When we change the damping value to 10, we get more bounciness. Something like 15 works best. So this is one use case where you can use ChatGPT to build micro interactions and transitions in SwiftUI. Thanks for watching.